Hi, welcome to my book review. Today I'm reviewing the book Genealogy of Morality. The translation is Carol Diethe. And the question I'm asking is morality an ascetic ideal? That's not what Nietzsche asks, but that's what I ask because his concept of morality is kind of like a diagnosis of like a very a very long and historical kind of view of morality, and his view for through the lens of the ascetic ideal. An ascetic means denying yourself. um, an ideal is like the ideal state of what do you deny yourself. And even Nietzsche says that wisdom sets limits. So in this, I'll be reading my short story, and I'll read a short blurb from Genealogy of Morality because you can't just read a whole book, but you can read parts of it. And I looked up copyright, and it said you can read part and then talk about it. It's called fair use. Um, and then I'll be ending with some things on situational ethics. So this is one of the authors that has inspired me to write short stories and stuff like that. And this is a short story I'll be reading that I wrote this year. And it's an example of my work. And it's called The Room. Fascinating, I said. See how that painting radiates from a single spot here? And I pointed to that spot. He nodded and just stood there in his clean blue uniform. I walked further on, and he followed. And this one, I said, different spot, but same explosion of detail. These paintings are amazing. He sort of smiled and then rubbed his nose and said, we should go back now. Not now, I said. Look at this painting. Here's the spot, and kaboom! And I spread my arms wide. Wow, the energy, the color. Come on, he said after a pause. We should go back now. I squatted near a painting and squinted my eyes to see the author's signature. Jaeger, come on. Okay, I said, and stood straight, stretched my arms, and followed him. I watched for more paintings and inspected them as we passed them. Why does this hospital have all these paintings? I said. For a moment he slowed and also took notice of the paintings. I don't know, he said. Perhaps the hospital brought them from a museum. Seeing a drinking fountain, I stopped and drank thirstily. He waited, checked his phone, and gave me an impression of impatience. I finished drinking and wiped my mouth with my arm. You done? He said, eyes widening for a second, as though I was to drink more. Yeah, I said. We walked around a corner past a desk. Not too many people. I could see the pitch black night through the sliding doors of the lobby. We arrived at the elevators, and I pointed at the stairs, and he nodded reluctantly. I opened the door to the stairwell and began up. There were no more paintings. The walls were eggshell white, and the stairs had rubber grips that squeaked as we ascended them. At the top, we opened another door and entered a unit with a nursing desk. I followed him further down the hall to a room and went in. There was a man sitting on a bed and another bed with a plastic bag on it. I went to the bag. My stuff, my cassette tapes, my Walkman, some journals, a book. This is your room, the man said in the uniform. Where's my smokes? I asked, rooting around in the bag, looking, but the man in uniform had left, and the man on the other bed answered. They don't let you have them in case you light one, he said. Huh? I responded. What are you in for? He asked. The man in uniform came back into the room. He gestured for me to come. I followed him. We went into a well-lit room and with a table, and I waited. I was interviewed by a man and then a woman. The man asked me a few questions, then the woman did the same. Then I was back with the man in the uniform. I followed him to a room where the man was sitting still on a bed, and I lay down on the other bed, and the man in uniform left us alone. My brain was confused. The questions they had asked me swirled around in my brain like a hurricane. I had answered as honestly as I could, but some of the questions I could not answer, out of lack of memory or something. I answered what I could, but then doubted my answers. And as I laid there, I kept thinking of new answers, things I should have said. Finally, I couldn't take it and got off the bed and went to the window. The man in the other bed was asleep, snoring quietly. I looked out the window for someone, anyone, but only the odd car rolled by. A light. I turned to see a woman with a flashlight. She shone it on the bed of the sleeping man. She looked at me, sort of half smiled, and disappeared as quickly as she came. I awoke early. The old man was sleeping. The room was lit with sunlight. I got off the bed and went to the window. I could see the whole city now. It stretched in every direction. I recognized the library, City Hall, the train, and residential areas. The traffic was now very busy. I exited the room. I passed two people who kind of looked at me and then looked away. I went to the desk and asked for my smokes. The man at the desk was busy on the computer, and he ignored me at first and then asked my question back to me without looking up. Then he swirled in the chair, pulled a cigarette out of a plastic bag in a drawer, handed it to me, and said I would have to smoke it off hospital grounds in the designated smoking section across the street. Then he went back to his computer and tapping on the keyboard in intervals. I went out to the doors down a staircase. I walked through a corridor, descended some stairs. Then I saw the sliding doors to the outside of the lobby. People were everywhere going places. I walked through the parking lot and saw some people smoking at a bench across the road and went there. I asked for a light, and a man smoking in a wheelchair handed me one, and I lit the smoke. There was also a woman in a red coat and a skateboarder. Silence overtook us as we smoked. I took a long drag and exhaled. Across the parking lot, the hospital loomed like a chocolate factory or a nuclear facility. I tried to find my window coming up from the bottom, but could only discern which window it was. Could not discern which window it was. I coughed a bit. The man in the wheelchair finished his cigarette and rolled off. The woman in the red coat towed hers out on the ground, kind of jostled in her pockets a bit, and then lit another shortly after. The skateboarder grabbed his skate and slid off, cigarette in mouth. I finished my cigarette, stepped on it, and a dull grayness overtook me, and I leaned back on the bench. The air was cool. It was breezy. I opened my eyes to a flash of red as the woman walked off down the sidewalk, leaving me alone on the bench. The traffic went in front of me, and I stared blankly at the hospital as it changed from chocolate factory to nuclear facility. From the bench, I got up and walked down the sidewalk along the road. There was a hill, a kind of embankment, by the parking lot, and I crossed the street and went to it, walked way up, and laid on the grass. For a long time, I just laid there. My head was a cloud, and as I stared into the sky, I resonated with the scatterings of clouds across the sky. I could see my life in its shapes, all confusion, and no one accused the sky of art. I could see him coming, though he was some distance away. Instinctively, I knew it was him by his slow gait, his uniform, and the way he stopped to tie his shoe. He walked through the cars in the parking lot towards me, and I raised on my elbows, remaining. He stopped at the bottom of the hill and looked up at me inquisitively. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "Staring at the clouds," I said. He sort of looked at the clouds briefly and then back at me. "Come in now," he said. I rolled to my side, half got up, and then I just sat there wanting to stay. I looked at the massive hospital looming over me. "Do you ever hate your job?" I asked without looking at him. "Sometimes," he said, "but it puts food on the table." "Do you know who you are?" "I think so." I sat there staring at the hospital, twisting the grass in my fists. Then slowly I got up and descended the hill. I followed him through the cars in the parking lot, through the sliding doors of the lobby, down the corridor, up the stairs, through the doors, past the desk, and he left me alone and I laid on the bed. Breakfast came shortly after. So that's my short story that I wrote. Back to Genealogy of Morals, and what that has to do with that story. This Genealogy of Morals is like one of my favorite pieces of fiction. Well, it's kind of it appears as nonfiction because it's about the history of morality, genealogy of morality, and it's interesting in a sense that there is no real meaning on earth but that which is kind of made up, and morality too is kind of made up, but it comes into play with whenever you're in a situation where there can be good or bad done. What comes into play is the rules you have, and not necessarily your own thinking. It could be someone else's rules that you're following. I'll read a little bit of the beginning of Genealogy of Morals because I think it's an exciting beginning. I read this in my 20s or something, and when I first read this first part of the preface, I was like stunned that someone could write about the human condition so well and not knowing things. So it begins off, we are unknown to ourselves, we knowers, and with good reason. We have never looked for ourselves. So how are we ever supposed to find ourselves? How right is the saying, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Our treasure is where the hives of our knowledge are. As born winged insects and intellectual honey gatherers, we are constantly making for them, concerned at heart with only one thing, to bring something home. Now that the line where your treasure is, there will also be your heart also, is from the Gospels according to Matthew. And that's an interesting point because this book is a polemic. It's against these ideas that are put forth in the Bible, and it's an attack or polemic on morality in the Bible and morality in general, I think, because he does open up to like even science. And then it continues. As far as the rest of life is concerned, the so-called experiences, who of us has enough seriousness for them or enough time? I fear we have never really been with it in such matters. Our heart is simply not in it, and not even our ear. On the contrary, like somebody divinely absent-minded and sunk in his own thoughts, who, the 12 strokes of midday have just boomed in his ears, wakes with a start and wonders, what hour has struck? Sometimes we, too, afterwards rub our ears and ask, astonished, taken aback, what did we actually experience then? Or even, who are we, in fact? And afterwards, as I said, we count all 12 reverberating strokes of our experience, of our life, of our being, and oh, we lose count. We remain strange to ourselves out of necessity. We do not understand ourselves. We must confusedly mistake who we are. The motto, everyone is furthest from himself, applies to us forever. We are not knowers when it comes to ourselves. And I found that interesting. It's kind of like the old adage, inquire within. And we don't know ourselves. We know what we've been told. We know all these different things. And those are kind of useless in introspection because it involves the social environment. and you're inside one brain. You're not a whole bunch of people. So I found that an interesting start, and he goes on to talk about bad conscience and things like that. And it's an interesting book. I won't give away too much of it. There is another line I really like in Will to Power, which is a collection of notebooks. It's not a fully like systematic work of essays like Genealogy of Morals is. This is like they put it together of notebooks of a book he was gonna write called Will to Power, but he died. There's my favorite line in here. I'm just gonna find it. I almost have it memorized, but I would like to read this is about Will to Power and the book that he was going to write. And it goes, in this way, this book is even anti-pessimistic. That is, in the sense that it teaches something that is stronger than pessimism, more divine than truth, art. Nobody, it seems, would more seriously propose a radical negation of life, a really active negation, even more than merely just saying no to life, than the author of this book. Except that he knows, he has experience of it. Perhaps he has experience of nothing else, that art is worth more than truth. And I find it odd that art is worth more than truth, that we can create things that are more valuable to us than like science or something, that artists are more important than scientists. And the scientists aren't always just scientists, they're scientists and artists. So it's kind of a battle of identities. Now, where's my... Oh, I wanted to end off talking a bit about situational ethics. And this is another, like, another religious guy in 1960 or something. He was an American professor, author, and ordained Episcopal priest who became one of the most influential and controversial figures of the 20th century moral philosophy. He is widely recognized as the founder of situational ethics and is considered a founding father of modern biomedical ethics, bioethics. Later in life, he identified as an atheist and vigorously advocated for utilitarian positions on euthanasia, abortion, and genetic control. Now, there's some entirely moral debates that are going on right now with euthanasia, abortion, and genetic control. Those are really huge right now. And Joseph Fletcher came up with situational ethics, and and it's the idea is like you can't tug a bunch of rules in with you into a situation. You have to be able to think when you're in a situation and make conscientious decisions about what you're doing. You can't say do not steal, do not kill, and a lot of those don't apply to the situation, for one. And there are loopholes. They're like, so there needs to be reason. I like the line that Nietzsche says that wisdom sets limits. You set limits, and that's what the ascetic ideal kind of is. But the ascetic ideal that is the examples of it are like people starving themselves and like doing things that are like completely like against themselves, denying themselves all sorts of things. And And everyone has to deny themselves things, but they don't have to go to the extent that some of the martyrs went, some of the religious gurus go. So that's situational ethics. And I have a cheat sheet, but I didn't really follow it. You're supposed to start strong and end strong. And I have 10 minutes. Maybe I'll play a song to end this great podcast. Yeah. I find with the music that it compresses it too much and then it doesn't sound good. So let me know if I should be doing music at all or if I should be doing book reports. You tease out the sorrow and escape for a new tomorrow. You'll suffer today, and everyone will notice that you are the same. You wanna be thin, you wanna be heartless, you wanna begin, but you've hardly started your life as a whim, as a lonely artist. You wanna be perfect, you wanna begin, but it's hardly worth it. You create a reason to live, it's not a real purpose. You tune out the sorrow and escape for a new tomorrow. You'll suffer today, and everyone will notice that you are the same. I did get some instruction on how to do a video, and I found it difficult. It was from a woman on school named Danielle, and you start. She does speeches. It's not really for live video, but she does a lot of speeches and stuff. And where is it? Oh, it's the acronym Spake. So you start strong, and then P is, yeah, you say your purpose, like what you're gonna say in the video, and then E is an explanation. That'll be like the meat of your thing, and then an example. That's what the E stands for the acronym Spake, and then keynotes. So I didn't do my keynote. I guess my keynote is situational ethics is preferable to like Bible ethics or like ethics that come from someone else. You have to think for yourself what is good and bad. And as for what's evil, there is the example that Nietzsche gives of the bird of prey. The bird of prey and the lamb. If you are a lamb, you're going to see the bird of prey as evil. But if you're the bird of prey, you're going to just see the lamb as like something to eat. So that's kind of like a perspective on evil. And in Nietzsche's book, Beyond Good and Evil, he goes on to say that we're not getting rid of good and bad. We're just getting rid of good and evil. There is evil, but it doesn't come from a spiritual place. It comes from people doing bad, like birds of prey, and those people should be jailed. And that is what happens. But looking at things as good and bad and evil make it almost an unhuman affair. Evil and life is a human affair. Our condition is human. And I ran some stuff through AI, and it said values cannot be looked up in a cosmic index before a situation happens. They must be forged in real time, measured only by whether they enhance or restrict your vitality. Wow, it's not very punchy. What would be a good punchy ending? A good punchy ending. Do you have any questions, anyone? All right, then I'll wrap it up here with just a bit of music. I'm often inside of my head. All of my friends are strange and dead. Talking to myself as I talk to you. If only you knew it'd stick like glue, and you look at me like you don't even hear. Look around, no one else is here. I'm so tired, I don't even care. Often I feel it in my heart. Days I don't even want to start. Talking to myself as I talk to you. If only you knew it'd stick like glue, and you look at me like you don't even hear. Look around, no one else is here. I'm so tired, I don't even care. Often there's a voice in my brain, fields of gray and walls of pain, talking to myself as I talk to you. If only you knew it'd stick like glue, and you look at me like you don't even hear. Look around, no one else is here. I'm so tired, I don't even care. I'm often inside of my head. All of my friends are strange and dead. Talking to myself as I talk to you. If only you knew it'd stick like glue, and you look at me like you don't even hear. Look around, no one else is here. I'm so tired, I don't even care. Thank you for listening to my book review and songs and short story. And I'll be on tomorrow at 2 p.m. Please come view and comment and question. Thank you very much.